A man who raped a teenager outside of a library appeared in court to appeal his 65-year prison sentence. Kendrick Morris was found guilty of a vicious attack on a teenage girl which left her paralyzed and blind. Morris was originally sentenced to 65 years without the possibility of parole. However, he went to appeals court as he thought the sentence was too harsh, considering he was a teenager at the time of the incident. Since Morris was 16 when he committed the crime, he believed he should be eligible for parole at some point. However, the judge did not sympathize with Morris and instead sentenced him to life in prison. This was not the first Morris had committed, and this played a big factor in the judge's decision, as well as the fact Morris was armed during the attack. Morris will be able to have his case reviewed again in 2031, but it seems unlikely he will be released anytime soon. What do you think? Should he be eligible for parole or spend the rest of his life in prison?
News coming out in the last 24 hours of fears of attacks against the United States as a result of China's concerning military drills that are going on currently in the Pacific around Taiwan. And headlines, as always, linked in the description below that I'm going to be referencing. The U.S. is deeply concerned over China's military drills in the Taiwan Strait. The State Department says, I'm going to be sharing with you exactly what it is that the United States is saying at this time. And at this time, fears that wars with China will be taking place. Civilians in Taiwan prepare for disaster. China sends dozens of warplanes and ships near Taiwan to show its anger over the island's new leaders. And also, we've been hearing this for quite some time. Chinese government poses broad and unrelenting threats to the United States' critical infrastructure systems, FBI Director Wray warns. I'm going to be sharing with you the latest on this as we're hearing that China could be prepping for attacks in Taiwan in the Pacific, and as a result, there believes that there will be attacks against the United States. This coming from the FBI and the State Department preparing for attacks against U.S. soil, U.S. infrastructure systems from China. Now, like I said, I'm going to be sharing with you the latest updates on this, and do me a favor. Let me know in the comments if you can hear me and see me okay. I see we've got about 430 people on with me live today, Saturday, May the 25th, with this breaking news coming out in the last 24 hours that the United States is saying that they are concerned with what is currently going on in the Pacific between China and Taiwan and threats that are currently taking place. Now, I see people are hopping on saying they can hear me and see me okay. Everything is loud and clear. Excellent. Okay, let's go ahead and get you caught up on the latest. And do me a favor, I see we now have about 528 people on with me live. 582 people on with me live. Please hit that like button if you appreciate the live updates with what's going on right now, keeping you up to speed on what's taking place so that way you can make any preparations needed for you and your family. Subscribe. Totally free. Why not? And also, if we do see critical infrastructure systems go down here in the United States, providing resources to my community so that way you can be prepared. Linked in the description below, we've got the newsletter, steveramnews.com, so that way if YouTube or communications go down, social media, you'll have access to updates via email. Also, if we have power grid failures, we have a free guide down below as well. And if you are somebody that you know depends on medications and you want to have backups, www.lifesavervault.com, linked in the description below. I believe we have pharmacies and doctors now, pharmacists ready to fill prescriptions in all 50 states. So those are available resources as well. And Martin Geraldo, thank you so much for that $2 super chat. I appreciate that a ton. And again, do me a favor, subscribe to stay up to date. It's free. Hit that like button. Let me get you caught up on the latest as to what is going on in the last 24 hours in the Pacific between China and Taiwan. And I see people saying that they're praying, they're preparing. And I always say here on the channel, we are not scared, we are prepared. That knowledge is power. Us knowing what is going on is half of the battle. So let me share with you what is taking place right now so that way you know the latest. So the U.S. is currently deeply concerned, we're hearing from the State Department, over China's military drills in the Taiwan Strait. And as we heard, the day that China attacks Taiwan is the day that infrastructure systems in the United States could be compromised and go down. We could see these threats of attacks actually implemented and take place against the United States. We've heard that there are dozens that are already compromised, and the United States CISA agency is doing everything they can to try to prevent these attacks from taking place. But the CISA itself was hacked not too long ago, taken down by cyber threats. Now, the United States Department on Saturday today said that the United States was deeply concerned over China's military drills in the Taiwan Strait and around Taiwan, and strongly urged China to act with restraint. Using a normal routine and democratic transition as an excuse for military provocations risks escalation and erodes long-standing norms that for decades have maintained peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait, the State Department said in a statement. Now, the department issued the statement after China ended 2 days of war games around Taiwan. So this has been going on for the last 2 days, in which it simulated attacks with bombers and practiced boarding ships, exercises that Taiwan has condemned as blatant provocation on Saturday today. So over the last 2 days, we have seen China practicing war game drills surrounding Taiwan, simulating attacks, boarding ships, doing all of these things, intimidating Taiwan, preparing for potential threats of attack, provocation all the way until today, which is Saturday. Now, China, which claims democratically governed Taiwan as its own territory, launched the Joint Sword 2024A exercises for 3 days after Lai Ching-te became Taiwan's president, a man Beijing calls a separatist. Beijing said that the exercises were punishment for Lai's Monday inaugurational speech, in which he said that the two sides of Taiwan Strait were not subordinate to each other, which China viewed as a declaration of two separate countries. So China did not appreciate that speech that came out, as he said they were subordinate. They were not one nation. And China then began these military drills, threatening with their drills Taiwan. Now, right now, as I mentioned, there is fear that China will be attacking Taiwan. Taiwanese people are preparing for disaster. Articles coming out on this. And here's another one that came out from the Associated Press that's going to give us a little bit more detail as to what it is that China is doing. Then we're going to be talking about how this directly impacts the United States and how this, they're saying, will be the first step to attacks against the U.S. infrastructure systems here on our own soil. Now, China sends dozens of warplanes and ships near Taiwan to show its anger over island's new leader. Taiwan tracked dozens of Chinese warplanes and Navy vessels off of its coast on Friday yesterday, the second day of a large military exercise launched by Beijing to show its anger over the self-governing island's inauguration of the new leader who refused to accept its insistence that Taiwan is a part of China. China has issued elaborate media statements showing Taiwan being surrounded by forces from its military, the People's Liberation Army. A new video on Friday showed animated Chinese forces approaching from all sides and Taiwan being enclosed within a circular target area while simulated missiles hit the population and military targets. Despite that, there was little sign of concern amongst Taiwan's 23 million people who have lived under the threat of China's invasion since the two sides split during a civil war in 1949. Taiwan's parliament was mired on Friday in a dispute between political parties over procedural measures, and business continues as usual in the bustling capital of Taipei and the ports of Keelung and Kaohsiung. So in those cities, we're hearing that life continued on as normal, but we're also receiving reports that there is fear of potential attacks and that drills are taking place in preparation for potential attacks against the nation. The defense military said it tracked 49 Chinese warplanes and 19 Navy vessels, as well as the Coast Guard vessels, and that 35 of the planes flew across the median lines in the Taiwan Strait, the de facto boundary between the two sides, over the 24-hour period from Thursday to Friday. So going right up to the borderline of where they're potentially entering into their territory, showing signs of potential threats. So this, as they said, is because China is very upset with the inaugural speech that took place with the new leader of Taiwan. China saying that they are preparing for attacks against Taiwan, even warning the United States that these attacks were coming. Now, why would China warn the United States? Well, it is because the United States is allies with Taiwan, and China knows that if they go against Taiwan, that the United States is an ally that will come to their defense and their side. So what we've heard is that there have been warnings coming out from the FBI for several months now that Chinese cyber hackers have been attacking U.S. infrastructure systems for the past 5 years in preparation for a potential attack against Taiwan. Anticipating the United States will jump in, They also have compromised U.S. infrastructure systems, planning to shut them down to cripple the United States' ability to function and to be able to come to the side of Taiwan as China attacks. And we heard China say this, saying that if you become involved in the Pacific in a conflict between us and Taiwan, then we will strike you. So even letting the United States know your systems have been compromised. And as I mentioned, we'd originally heard that there were over 24 different infrastructure systems in the United States that have been compromised. We weren't given details as to which ones they were, except for we did have information on 3: the Texas power grid, the West Coast ports, and the water of Hawaii, the Hawaii water systems. But they're saying there are actually multiple times more than 24. The FBI is saying that they have been compromised, systems have been compromised multiple times over, and that they said that it is more than they suspected. Now, a lot of people have asked the question, well, what is it that the United States, the FBI, is doing to help stop this if they know that this potential threat is here? And the response from FBI Director Wray was that the Chinese cyber attacks, the cyber threat is 50 times larger, outnumbers the U.S. defenses 50-1. So they said for every one person they have working on cyber defense, there are 50 attackers coming from China to the United States. And that is why they're unable to stop these. They keep seeing them popping up over and over. Even the CISA, as I mentioned, the organization for the United States that's in charge of stopping these cyber attacks, they themselves have recently been compromised and hacked. So they're saying that they're trying everything they can to try to ward off these attacks, trying to break off these potentially compromised infrastructure systems. But there's little that they can do right now. They are heavily outnumbered, we are hearing. Now, all of this comes.
Red threat rising. Deep concerns over China's military drills in the Taiwan Strait.
China poses the world's greatest cyber threat, and they warn that Americans remain vulnerable.
People can't use their cell phone. People start getting sick, polluted water. Trains get derailed. Air traffic control system, port control systems are malfunctioning.
Crush any American will to defend Taiwan from a Chinese invasion.
This is truly an everything, everywhere, all at once scenario.
New red threat alert for World War III in the last 48 hours. This is between Taiwan, China, and the United States. I'm going to be sharing with you how the conflict in the Pacific is directly impacting the United States of America, and many are saying could be pulling us into World War III. And let me know your thoughts. A lot of people saying we are already in World War III, and the Hill saying we're actually losing currently with the Biden administration and the decisions that they are making with the global conflicts that are currently taking place. Now, I'm going to get you caught up on the latest and show you the latest video footage. And I shared with you that over the weekend, we saw that the United States, the State Department announced that they were deeply concerned over China's military drills in the Taiwan Strait. And we've heard, and I'm going to be sharing with you, the warnings from the FBI to the United States as they're saying that China is preparing to attack Taiwan here. And when they do, they will also be attacking the United States. Knowing that we are allies with Taiwan that will rush to their aid, they are already thinking ahead of how they're going to be crippling the United States to stop us from intervening to help Taiwan. We're hearing that our infrastructure systems, dozens upon dozens, have been compromised, and they're planning a coordinated effort to shut down all U.S. infrastructure systems and cripple the American people, stopping us from helping out our allies. Now, like I said, I'm going to be sharing with you the latest video footage so you can see it for yourself. So let's go ahead and dive right in, get you caught up on what it was the FBI has been saying for the past 3 months, and also what has been coming out in the last 48 hours with the conflicts between China and Taiwan. Now, before we dive in, do me a quick favor. If you appreciate the updates, don't forget, hit that like button for me. Hit subscribe to stay up to date. It's totally free. And to stay connected, resources linked in the description below, and also join www.steveramnews.com. In case communications do go down, you can stay up to date on everything going on. But with that being said, you guys...
FBI director sounding the alarm about Chinese efforts to attack American power grids, transportation systems, and communications networks.
China's hackers are positioning on American infrastructure in preparation to wreak havoc and cause real-world harm to American citizens and communities.
And Christopher Wray announcing a major takedown of a Chinese hacking operation on American soil, dubbed Volt Typhoon.
Working with our partners, the FBI ran a court-authorized on-network operation to shut down Volt Typhoon and the access it enabled. Steps China was taking, in other words, to find and prepare to destroy or degrade the civilian critical infrastructure that keeps us safe and prosperous.
Ray and other officials say China poses the world's greatest cyber threat, and they warn that Americans remain vulnerable. U.S. Cybersecurity Chief Jen Easterly describing the devastating impact of a potential massive Chinese cyber attack.
Telecommunications going down so people can't use their cell phone. People start getting sick from polluted water. Trains get derailed. Air traffic control system, port control systems are malfunctioning. This is truly an everything, everywhere, all at once scenario.
Easterly said China believes that sort of cyber attack would crush any American will to defend Taiwan from a Chinese invasion. In a statement to NBC News, a Chinese government spokesman denied China hacks into foreign networks, calling it irresponsible criticism.
Yeah, we're back with a red threat rising. The U.S. is urging Beijing to act with restraint amid deep concerns over China's military drills in the Taiwan Strait. The drills surrounding the entirety of Taiwan, while leaders from China, South Korea, and Japan agree to a trilateral meeting tomorrow in Seoul for the first time since 2019. Here with more is former State Department spokesperson Morgan Ortagus. Morgan, good morning. I know that you have a lot of experience with this, but for those sitting at home watching this or hearing this, you know, they say, well, South Korea and Japan, they're our allies. Why are they meeting with China? Explain to us what this meeting means.
Hey, good morning, Joey. So let's pull back sort of the bigger picture. Yes, we have this meeting going on, but why is China conducting these exercises around Taiwan? They've been doing this for quite some time. It's not new, but it's been incredibly aggressive since Nancy Pelosi, when she was Speaker of the House, visited Taiwan early in the Biden administration. I was just in Taiwan last month, Joey, and the Taiwanese officials told me that that was really the turning point for China and Taiwan in terms of their exercises and their military drills being much more invasive. Why does all of that matter, Joey? Well, as you know, you're a Marine. There's several different ways in which the Chinese could invade Taiwan. And one of the big concerns is that one of these big military drills around Taiwan could go from an exercise right into an invasion. So that's one of the main concerns. Plus, I think it's sort of, Joey, I think it's the drip, drip, drip of these exercises. They keep doing more and more and more and trying to make this appear normal until one day it's suddenly not normal. So then you start to look, Joey, and you say, okay, why are our allies, Japan and South Korea, meeting with China? Listen, we meet with China as well. You have to meet with your neighbors. I'm not necessarily concerned that our neighbors are meeting and talking. I'm sure that there's information that we will glean from our allies from having those meetings. What's the most important thing is for the United States is to focus on our relationships and what we call Indo-PACOM. So that means our relationships with things like the Quad that President Trump revived after it went sort of dormant in the Obama years. So that means Japan, South Korea, the Philippines, Vietnam, Australia. I mean, you go through the list of countries in Southeast Asia. I think the most important thing that we could be doing diplomatically, Joey, is doubling and tripling down on those relationships with those countries, India as well.
Yeah, there's a couple of aspects of this that I think I find very interesting. So, from my understanding, South Korea and Japan are meeting with China with a concern over North Korea, wanting China not to support North Korea's rogue actions seeking nuclear weapons. Then you look at what's happening in Taiwan, and it's basically Taiwan is this major manufacturing and computer chips and other things that's a huge export. And another thing on the list with China for Japan and South Korea is declining age. That's a problem they have. So as part of this action from China, being bold in some ways, is it to set themselves up for a better future? What's their reasoning behind needing to take Taiwan?
The Taiwan question is an excellent one. I mean, listen, we have to remember that Taiwan is a democracy. They just actually had an inauguration last week. As you know, that's part of the reasons why we see these drills. Xi Jinping, the leader of China, the leader of the Chinese Communist Party, wants to take Taiwan. He believes that it belongs. It's a part of China. There's been an ongoing there was of course an ongoing civil war for decades. And that is where Chiang Kai-shek and the forces that lost in China, they went to Taiwan. Taiwan. So Xi Jinping sort of sees it as existential to take Taiwan. Of course, we as Americans in the West believe in freedom, believe in the autonomy and the democracy and the right for people to choose their future, and don't think that China or any other country should just be able to take by Taiwan. We do have a position called strategic ambiguity, but Biden over the past 3 or 4 years has said things like, well, no, we're going to defend Taiwan.
Yeah.
That's not actually settled U.S. policy. His administration
Exactly.
walks that back. But it's really important also to remember from a religious freedom perspective, Joey, there are thousands of churches and thousands of Christians in Taiwan. That is not something that China wants, right? They persecute their own Christians in China. And so if you care about freedom of religion, that matters too.
We're going to leave it here. This is a big question, and it's what we should be focused on. Even the Marine Corps has reoriented itself for a Pacific war, and we need to be reporting on it.
So there you have it. Now, also, to catch the live footage, I covered it as soon as the information was coming out, and to get all the links to all of the article resources, be sure to check out this video right here next, as I covered for you in the last 24 hours live when this news came out about Taiwan, China, and the United States. And we're going to be seeing what unfolds as the conflict, we're hearing the red threat is rising, which many are saying could lead to World War III in the Pacific. But like I said, check out this video right here next, and I'll be sure to keep you guys up to date. I'll catch you in the next one. Thank you for joining me. God bless. This is Steve.